Welcome to Never Too Late for Fitness Radio, bringing baby boomers proven strategies and innovative products for getting fit, staying fit, so you can live a longer, healthier, and happier life. Here's your host, best-selling author and fitness advocate, Phil Ferris.
This is Phil Ferris, and welcome to our show. Never Too Late for Fitness Radio provides answers and straight talk about fitness, nutrition, and healthy lifestyle for people over 50. Our goal is to educate and advocate health and fitness strategies that help you live a longer, healthier, happier life. On some shows, we feature companies or fitness industry professionals who share how they help their 50-plus clients achieve their goals. Other shows feature real people who have acted and reclaimed their health and fitness. We all love success stories, especially if the person is facing the same challenges we face. Hearing real success stories helps inform, motivate, and inspire us to live a healthier life. Our guest today is Brian Magazine, a 56-year-old professional from Newburgh, Indiana. Not long ago, he weighed 185 pounds at 5'6", and like a lot of men his age, he had let his health and fitness stop being a priority. Although he wasn't obese, he was overweight and out of shape. Through a series of circumstances, he is still 5'6", but weighs a lean 160 pounds with 10% body fat. He comes from a background as an athlete, is married to a former marathon runner and bodybuilding competitor, and raised a competitive swimmer and a competitive dancer. Fitness is an essential part of his life and his family. Brian and I also share a love of playing basketball and bad knees that caused us to stop playing. He's learned a lot about reclaiming his health and fitness and is eager to share his story today. So thank you, Brian, for being with us.
Oh, thank you, Phil. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to say it's an honor to be here because it's nice to see that somebody is really looking out for an age group that sometimes gets distracted in what's probably most important, and that's their own health and welfare when they get caught up in their lifestyle and raising a family. And so it's really an opportunity to share.
Well, that's great. In order for our listeners to really appreciate the results that you've achieved, they should know where you started. Where you, when you were 5'6", 185, and out of shape. What was that like? Can you tell us a little bit about what your life was like before you improved your fitness?
Oh yeah, and just to really shed some light on this, my kids are 23 and 27. You mentioned what their life was like as teenagers and youth. And so Mary and I gave up our independence in chasing swim meets and dance competitions. So eating on the run, being on the run, and not having that dedicated time to ourselves and our own fitness. I call it creeper weight. You don't feel it, and then all of a sudden, you know what, you're out of belt holes. And that's where I was at. And, that it was very recognizable in the mirror. And I was starting to recognizing it in my work performance. I was seeing the day wanting to end a little earlier as time went on. And that was definitely not good. So those were kind of some of the things I was noticing as my clothes didn't fit very well. And my performance was way down.
Okay. Now, I can relate to that, and I'm sure that my listeners can as well. But every good success story has that moment of truth where you make the decision to change your life. Can you describe what that moment was like for you?
Yeah, and so we often hear about, getting into swimsuit condition this time of year. And I live in southern Indiana, so we have cold winters. And but I love Major League Baseball, so we ended up down in Jupiter, Florida, and doing some spring training there. There's a former Evansville person I played Little League with. It's the manager of the Marlins now, Donnie Mattingly. So we went down to do that, and as I shed the winter clothes last spring, I was like, oh my goodness, I need this to go away. And it was just very uncomfortable. And it was kind of an aha moment at that point that I really need to improve myself. And so
I made that decision. So I really got to improve myself. How did you start changing your life?
Well, it was a series of events, but my wife kind of initiated it. And one, she kind of brought it to the table that maybe we're eating wrong. There's a lot of different body fuels, and we're not creating one of the more important fuels. She sat me down and said, listen, our body works off of glucose or the normal things that we're all accustomed to, proteins and carbohydrates, and said, but you know what? I've been reading and delving into this stuff about body fat for fuel. And that was really new to me because, again, raising athletes, being an athlete, I always did carbohydrates to store fuel. And so that was kind of what we did even as adults. And so while we were on this trip, we just kind of said, hey, we're gonna switch some things even while we're on vacation. And gosh, almost instantly, you started feeling better. You didn't lose weight overnight, but getting some of that stuff out of your system, it was like, wow, this feels so much better. And it's better known as the ketogenic diet, to the public. I'm hesitant to say that word because people think of diet as a verb instead of a noun. But it was just a different way of eating. I didn't have to cut calories. I had to cut what I was eating.
What were some of the specific changes you did make that made the difference?
Well, I added some exercise because I was feeling better. One of the things that we got introduced to while we were looking at this, because ketones were so important to the fuel source, because most people don't realize, again, that you've got two fuel sources, ketones and glucose, and we weren't producing them. Your fatty acid produces them, what we were finding in research. And we found somebody that had a drink that was exogenous ketones instead of endogenous when you make them, but the same ketone could be drank. And that was really an aha that put me over a threshold of, hey, this is real. And so I wanted ketones as my main fuel, and that kind of started moving me in a faster direction.
Okay, well, for those people that may not be familiar with the energy sources, can you give us a little background on that? Layman's approach to how you produce, work off of proteins and sugars, and how that's different than working off of ketones.
Yes, and my apologies to anybody who I made that sound too simple to, because it wasn't simple to me. But I've figured out a way to simplify that, and thanks for bringing that to my attention, Phil. An automobile requires fuel and oil, which is two different sources to make an engine run better. And you take either one of them out, and it doesn't run well. And so metabolically, a body needs ketones from your fatty acid and glucose to operate your muscle systems, your cardiovascular systems, even your neuro systems. It needs both, not wants both, but it actually needs both. And most of us, as we're aging, because of the way we eat, we never produce ketones. We looked at some information from a lab down in Tampa called ASPE, and there's a Ryan Lowry and a Dr. Jacob Wilson that are big in ketogenic performance. And, some of their documents said you had to be in the middle of a 7 mile, or you had to be in your 7th mile of a run to give some significance of burning through your stored glucose to get to ketosis, actually, producing ketones. And I think distance runners who may know better now call that the runner's high. And what they may not know is that's when their body's kicking into ketosis and they're picking up this second fuel. And you mentioned earlier about knees, and there's no way I could run 7 miles. So naturally, I couldn't get my body into ketosis like we did when we played basketball. So it made a whole lot of sense since the exogenous ketone could just be drank every day. Did I tweak my diet? Yes, but I don't produce that kind of workout to create it myself, theoretically. So it was a big plus. And I hope that explained it better, of the dual fuel that a body really needs, both physically and neurologically.
Okay, yeah, it does. So if I get it right, when we're burning off of glucose, that's usually our instant energy that we're looking for when we work out. And then when the body eventually depletes that, it switches over to burning fats or ketones. And most of us never get to that point because it takes either a lot of strenuous, like I said, running 7 miles, or other ways of doing that is with intermittent fasting, where you kind of deprive and kind of severe diet approaches, so that the body does start going to the ketones first. Is that correct?
Yeah, you would either have to have that exercise load or a very carbohydrate restricted food intake every day. I think the threshold for most is around 40 grams of carbohydrate to keep your body, in a state where you're going to burn through the rest of the glucose that you're producing. One of the good analogies I saw was a little video about a campfire, and this one, really sheds a light. You think of glucose, being the twigs that you use to start a fire, and it's easy to fire, and it burns hot, but it burns very fast. And you would add bigger sticks to it, and the same thing would happen, which would be associated with your proteins, to add fuel to a fire. But again, it's not your longest lasting fuel. Your ketones or your body fat become, like the big logs or a big chunk of coal in a fire that's going to burn hot and burn for hours. And so absolutely, you've got to get to those ketones.
How did your fitness regimen change? Did you do anything differently in the gym or when you worked out than you were doing earlier?
Absolutely. Just the fact that I was feeling better, I decided to just get on and stay on a very simple, though, regimen. And again, I had to work this into a professional day, and I'm not big on doing it in the evening. So I started a 25, 30-minute cardio regimen, and then I would lift for about 20 minutes. And that doesn't sound like much, but when you're by yourself or with one other person, Monday through Friday, I would just pull up a body part, So if Monday was chest, we would do our cardio, and then 3 or 4 chest sets, on that body part. And so if back was the next day, it's only 15 or 20 minutes to work your back out at our age. I was trying to build some muscle mass back up and preserve my bone density and, make sure that when I'm losing weight, I'm not losing strength. And, man, it hit spot on.
Okay. So your performance in the weight room improved while you're losing weight, which is not always
absolutely. And one of the things that I did, Phil, because everybody always told us while we were doing all this research, is if you're going to lose weight using fat for fuel, you're going to preserve muscle. So Monday was always chest day for me. It still is. And so in that bench press part of the chest day, I always made sure I could hit a test set and never missed it as I was dropping all the weight. And, at this point it's much easier because I'm stronger, but never failed on that test set as I was losing weight. So it was a really nice way, again, to preserve muscle, get myself more fit. And, I didn't lack for food or anything like that. It wasn't like a diet that way.
Okay. You said a test set. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So, and again, just taking care of myself and not wanting to hurt myself. Always started off on on the bench press with a 135, 245 pound plates to do a warm up, and then 185 10 times. That was my test set, and always wanted. At that point, it was my weight, So I was always concerned about not being able to push my own weight, and wanted to make sure I could always do that. And I never failed as I was dropping the weight. Never went to 160. You know what I mean?
So 160, now you're pressing 185, benching 185 times 10. That's, considerably more than your body weight. So that's great.
Yes.
Now, Brian, most success stories have some speed bumps or challenges along the way. What were some of the challenges that you faced, and how did you deal with them?
Well, so the professional side, is one of the biggest challenges, I would say, because during the day you really have to make good food choices, and client lunches were challenging. But I figured out how to do it. There's plenty of places to go eat where people can get good food and you can get good food. And if their choices aren't the way you want to go, so I had to do that. I couldn't let people talk me into going to the pizza buffet anymore or things like that. It's just, I'm in an industrial business professionally. I sell cleaning equipment and to factories and hospitals. So I got a wide variety of clientele. And so, you just had to make sure that a lot of those choices during the day didn't affect what you could positively control in the morning and the evening. That was one of the biggest challenges.
Were there times where you kind of fell off the wagon or made some bad choices?
Oh, I still do. I still like food. But, matter of fact, so we visited Chicago not too long ago, and ended up at Chicago Cut downtown, and I was pretty weak there, but we were very well taken care of by the owner there. Actually, we were at Ocean Cut. He's got a couple places. Gosh, he took such good care of us, and but there's times you just do that, and then when you don't, you make the better choices. But if you're only doing it occasionally, it doesn't cause the negativity that if you're doing it every day and not being mindful of it.
Okay, so I guess a couple of the takeaways from that is it's not about being perfect. It's okay periodically to indulge, but you do it mindfully, which means you're aware at the time that, okay, this is a little bit more than I need, or this is not the best choice, but that's okay, because the next meal I can go back and make the right, or the choices that I should make that are consistent with what my health and fitness goals are. Is that a good way of saying it?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm thinking that whatever food path anybody takes, that's just the way it is. Weight loss is simple math, as we all know. It's less calories in than you burned, and you're going to drop weight. If you get to your goal weight, then you're going to have to manage calories in to calories burned that day. And so if we're going to go to Chicago Cut or someplace, you know what? You drop your calories a little in the morning. You don't have to starve, and just be mindful, and then splurge. It's weird though that some of the things that I eat now have that negative feeling. So it's very natural to steer away from them because it has this almost like a food hangover effect. And so nature has really helped me out in that.
And so once you start burning ketones, it changes your cravings for food. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. I almost have to force feed myself carbohydrates.
Wow.
That was one of the strangest parts of the process. This sounds kind of odd, but in 14 months, I could count on both hands the number of times that my stomach has growled. when you break that addiction for the carbohydrates, your body doesn't look for food. And so then you're eating for purpose instead of just eating.
Okay. Now, most transformation programs involves reaching certain milestones or using certain metrics, and you talked about your test set with the bench press. What were some of the other metrics or measures you use to keep yourself on track?
Well, I had a couple people just, offering some advice, which was friendly. And it's the same advice that if anybody asked me what I would suggest is I weighed myself in the beginning. And so I was asked, or suggested, don't weigh yourself in this process. Just watch the changes. And one of the first things I noticed was the pants that I was stretching out weren't stretching out anymore. And which was very interesting because I really hadn't been paying attention at that point. I was just eating different and changed a little bit of exercise. But that was the first thing that I noticed. And as that time went on, I noticed I was running out of belt holes.
Okay. That's a good thing.
I'm telling you, those were the first couple things I noticed. And then I noticed my chin and my cheekbones. The second chin disappeared.
Okay. Okay.
It was nice not to have that.
And that second chin's gone. Okay.
Yep.
And so those are kind of gradual, natural occurring kinds of things that let you know that you're on track.
Absolutely. And so when I'm in a peer group of, people in their mid 50s to late 50s, I see, a wide variety of these scenarios, and I'm like, God, that's exactly how I looked, And, when you're in close company like that, you got to be real careful too, because any suggestive statements can sound critical, but you only want them to be better because I know how much better I feel.
Okay.
But yep, absolutely.
Now, you talked about the getting your body to burn ketones and using a product to help you do that. Most people become a little skeptical of products, and they kind of wonder, will this work for me? Or they wonder, what are the most common misconceptions people might have on the exogenous ketones?
Well, I would think that they have real validity to be skeptical and concerned because, one, you're putting things in your body, and two, there's a lot of people that are offering a lot of different things for health and weight loss. And so everybody, even myself, when we were first introduced to these, they were probably in our house for 2 or 3 weeks before anybody even tried it out of the same skepticism. But exogenous ketones have been around a long time, and most people don't realize it. It's one of those things that the military has been using for 10 or 12 years to keep some of their the Navy SEALs, NASA pilots in ketosis because of all the neurological benefits of having your body in the state of ketosis. And so what we found actually was the military product having brought to market by a couple civilian business people. So, and the fortunate thing was, I've gotten to meet the chemist of this originally for the military, so it's very legitimate as opposed to something that somebody has used the keto name for, period, just to try to add into a wave of trends. Because what I'm seeing in the industry is, and especially the athletic industry, is a lot of different things are starting to get that keto prefix. So
right.
So everybody's got to be skeptical and real mindful of what they're putting in their body. The fatty acid ketones called B-hydroxybutyrate, BHB for short. This particular product is nothing but B-hydroxybutyrate and a little bit of natural flavoring and a little bit of stevia, if that's how some people pronounce it, stevia. Poor military have to drink it without the flavoring, and it probably tastes like jet fuel. And but I'm telling you, it's a really nice tool for wellness, and it's not a weight loss product. It's what your body needs.
Okay.
Now, the skepticism, everybody should be skeptical of supplements. They really should.
So no matter what you do, do your own due diligence, do your own research, because it's your body you're putting it into. That's good advice for any product, even if it's food. Be mindful of what you're putting in your body, because that's what's going to fuel your body.
You are what you put into your mouth.
Absolutely. Now, most people don't succeed in a vacuum, and having a support system generally increases the likelihood of success significantly. Can you describe a little bit about your support system and how it helped you?
Well, I'm very fortunate because I've got a support system at home. My wife probably holds about most certifications that ACE offers to group fitness type of people. She's a yoga therapist and a massage therapist. So theoretically, she knew everything about how to care for your body, and the missing link was what to be putting in it, because she was clued into the standard American diet, and when she decided to flip the food pyramid in our house, I was probably, again, the last to get on board. But when I saw some of the things in her that were happening, and so she's a very strong advocator of it, and has seen the changes in me and continues to prop me up. There is a network of exogenous ketone people in southern Indiana. So there's a lot of support there where people are offering and sharing information about different wellness attributes and different food choices. We've learned how to make fudge that doesn't spike your insulin. So just different. Yeah. So, on Thanksgiving or whenever we want, we have cheesecake. It's not like we don't eat. We have cheesecake, but it doesn't have any sugar or grain in it. So
it still tastes pretty good.
Amen. And Thanksgiving, which we spent up in Chicago, we had pumpkin cheesecake. So everything's out there to do and be better. You just got to find it, and you got to want it bad enough to be better. And there's plenty of people to help you. Even on your social medias, there's two very avid places on Facebook that are about ketogenic athletes and ketogenic support. And, you could ask any question you want about performance and food choices, and somebody's going to pipe in with a valid answer for you. So we also use internet, social media as support.
Yeah, social media makes, gives us access to information and people that we've never had before. So that's great.
And social media is like the newspaper. You do have to validate what somebody's sharing with you. If somebody shares something with you with Google or someplace like that, you can always get validation from a scientist or PubMed or someplace like that. There's papers out there on everything. You just got to look for it.
Now, they say that if we don't learn from our experiences, we'll continue to make the same mistakes. What are some of the biggest lessons learned that you've learned from your transformation experience?
Probably the number one thing is you have got to want to be better, and that's kind of been my self-sustaining motto. And that really resonated through everything I do now. You got to want to be better to be better. And there's going to be roadblocks, objections, and different things that are going to slow you down. But if you've got an as is and where you want to be, you're going to get there if you really want it.
Okay. Now, if there's a person listening to the show right now who's thinking about making the kind of decisions that change their life like you did, what advice would you give them?
My first advice would be make sure you do it, and then sit down and write down a goal. And I use an acronym for goals called SMART. I learned this in some old Dale Carnegie classes. But the S in SMART is for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timetable. And if somebody will sit down and do that, they can get themselves there. And I'm willing to share with anybody. I've got a passion to help my age group be better, because we're faced with either making choices of being better or asking the doctor for help.
Yeah, that's great, because it is. We're at an age where you have to look at we call it the age trajectory of are you continuing to be functioning at a high level, or are you working towards frailty and lack of and being dependent on others. So what we do now determines the quality of life for the next 10, 20, 30 years or more. So, yeah, this is, that's one reason I was impressed with what you've done and try to reach out to people that says, hey, if Brian can turn it around, so can you. If Brian, you said you're willing to help people. If people want to contact you or learn more about exogenous ketones, where should they go?
Without a whole lot, it's Brian Magazine. And Magazine's an easy name to remember. On Facebook, it's an unrestricted page. Just friend me and then send me an instant message. My wife has an exogenous ketone page. It would be Mary Magazine .experienceketo.com, and so there they can watch that 4-minute little campfire video that I was trying to explain your fuel sources. I'm telling you, it is very graphic, and that was part of the aha moment that I had was this video is spot on. And so those two places, but from anybody who's listening and doesn't want to jot down a lot of numbers, Brian Magazine at Facebook, and then just send me an instant message and tell me who you are and how I can help.
Oh, great. Well, Brian, thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing your story. I know that many men and women as well that may have let themselves go will benefit and be inspired by your story. So thanks again, Brian, and have a great day.
Thank you. I enjoyed being here.
You've been listening to Never Too Late for Fitness Radio, hosted by Phil Ferris. To learn more about the guests or resources on our show today, or to listen to past episodes, go to nevertoolateforfitness.com.